All right, welcome back. Public opinion and politics. All right, so we're going to look at kind of what are some potential pitfalls when it comes to polling. Can we really trust the results? Are they really reliable? Are they really accurate? Well, there are three things that we're going to discuss that opinion polls often have a hard time measuring. One is intensity. So, how strongly a person holds a particular position. So, it asks the question about whether you approve or disapprove of offshore drilling for oil or something like that, right? And you give a response, so most people will answer that question even though they might not feel very strongly about it. They're like, I approve or I disapprove. But if the poll doesn't go any further than that, it has a tough time distinguishing between the relative intensity of respondents. It could be possible that the people who said, yeah, it's fine, they don't really care about the issue that much. It's not an intensely held opinion. Whereas the people who oppose it are very strongly opposed to that. So this is something that sometimes polling results aren't great at picking up. Something else that they can struggle with is latency. That means opinions that are held but not expressed. And so there are some people who their explanation for 2016 and why polls typically argued or showed that Hillary Clinton was going to win, they said, sometimes they called it the shy Trump voter. There's this idea that people were hesitant to admit that they were going to vote for him, but then when they actually went to the polling places and they actually cast their vote, they voted for him even though they may have not been willing to tell pollsters that. So the idea here is that people have a certain opinion, but maybe they don't think it's popular, they don't feel comfortable saying it, even just to a person on the phone, so they might not actually express their true opinion. So this obviously would be very problematic for pollsters because they can only report what people tell them, and it appears that people don't always tell them exactly what they actually believe and intend to do. Another issue is the issue of salience. This is the most important of these three, the term salience, how important or relevant a specific issue is. So my example here is you might get asked a polling question about your opinion on the death penalty, and you might be like, oh, the death penalty is wrong, it's morally reprehensible, you shouldn't have it. But is that actually a relevant issue to you? Is that something that you would vote based upon or not? So salience, again, this is something that's important to know, but if the poll doesn't go further and ask about that, they might have a hard time distinguishing between, all right, yes, this is how people feel about this issue, but is this actually something they're going to vote based upon? It's like when we think about ideologies. So populists and libertarians, they don't fit nice and neatly into the Republican or Democratic groups. So the question is, well, how do they decide who to vote for? And the answer is usually related to salience. If a libertarian, social issues are more important to him or her, they would probably vote with the Democratic Party because they are more socially liberal. If economic issues are more salient or relevant to that person, they would likely vote with the Republican Party because they are more likely to agree with them on economic issues. So this idea of salience is very important and again can sometimes be tough to measure with public opinion polls. All right, and finally we have the effect of public opinion polls. Does it actually matter? Well, public opinion can cause a bill to pass or not. So if polls show that something is very popular or unpopular, it can make it more or less likely that it will pass. Again, it doesn't always. Sometimes we have extreme opinion in favor of something and it doesn't happen, or there is opposition, but it still happens. So this is not a perfect measurement, but it does appear that opinion polls do affect the passage of legislation. It can certainly cause certain issues to become more important to lawmakers. So when they realize, all right, healthcare is now the most important issue, or gun rights or gun control, that will be something that they are more likely to focus on as a reflection of public opinion. Candidates who are running for office, they can slightly adjust or tweak their position so they can realize, hey, maybe I shouldn't say this, or maybe I should focus more on that. So it helps them with strategy and making sure that their message is getting out there. It could potentially affect decisions by the Supreme Court. We know the Supreme Court is insulated and protected from public opinion. They're not elected. But we also know that it is up to public officials, president, state and local governments to enforce Supreme Court rulings. And so they're very aware of public opinion, making sure that hopefully they don't get too far out, removed from public opinion, where it could then threaten the legitimacy of the court. And public opinion is most likely to matter when it is strongly united on an issue. So when we have an overwhelming answer in one direction or the other. When it's very mixed, it's much less likely to have an effect because politicians aren't really sure what the popular thing is to do. But when it becomes overwhelming or strongly galvanized on one side, it is more likely to matter. If you haven't already, shame on you, but go ahead and subscribe. I won't hold it against you, but subscribe right now. Hit that like button. This has been a La Money production.